I'm Jason Wright, and this is the Texas Titans Podcast. Just like the name of the podcast suggests, I will be visiting with Texas Titans of business, academia, sports, or whatever their chosen field, looking for the disciplines and habits that have made these Texans so remarkable. Success leaves clues, and I want to crack the code to these Titans' success and share it with you. Thank you for joining me here on the Texas Titans Podcast. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Texas Titans Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a great episode. This is one that I have been looking forward to doing for a while because I sit down with Healy. Now, Healy is a real estate broker over in the Metroplex area, but Rogers is much more than that. Rogers is a very big personality. Rogers is a TV personality. Rogers is definitely a social media personality, but at the foundation of all of that, professionally, Healy is a world-class real estate broker who has built a phenomenal company and is a world-class entrepreneur that I wanted to bring to you guys. We had a lot of fun, and let me tell you something. The thing I like about Rogers and why I really wanted to reach out and do this interview, because I didn't know Rogers before this interview. I just knew him through social media. We have some mutual friends. But the thing I really enjoyed about him was, one, he knows how to build a brand. He's built a great brand, but he also doesn't take himself too seriously. He's able to leverage his assets that he has with his personality, his sense of humor, and turn that into business and lead generation in a way that I think is serving him very well. So this was a fun conversation. I think you'll really enjoy it. Now, before we get into that, I want to read to you Rogers' professional bio. Healy was born to build, market, and sell. Rogers was born in Corpus Christi, moved to San Antonio as a child, and then made his final Texas stop in Dallas in the early 1990s. From day one, he's always looked for opportunities to network, learn, and work harder than anyone. Rogers Real Estate launched back in 2001 while an undergrad at Southern Methodist University. A self-described opportunist, Rogers saw the need for fellow students to get assistance when looking for off-campus housing. I've never had a problem doing the work others didn't want to do. Everyone needs a place to live, so I found a way to help my friends at SMU, whether they were renting their first apartment or buying their first condo. After a few years of learning the business of real estate, Rogers launched Rogers, Healy & Associates Real Estate in 2006. Determination and energy proved to be the perfect ingredients for getting RHA launched, and even still, that's the approach. In 2008, Rogers founded Healy Property Management, which has grown to one of the most successful property management firms in Texas. In 2009, Rogers founded Healy Global Relocation, which is the only company in the world that helps clients with all their real estate and moving needs all over the world. I've been blessed to have found success in business, especially in the world of real estate. That's always rewarding, but the truest joy I experience is with my people. Seeing them grow, watching them learn, and being a part of their lives gives me a sense of impact and a full heart. No deal will ever replace that. Rogers, Healy & Associates is a multi-time winner of the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies in the U.S., the best place to work in Dallas by both the Dallas Morning News and the Dallas Business Journal, the SMU 100 Fastest Growing Businesses Award, and the 100 Fastest Growing Companies in Fort Worth by Fort Worth Magazine. During Rogers' tenure in business, he's been the recipient of many notable awards, including Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30, the Dallas Morning News Executioner of the Year, the Dallas Millennial Club's Entrepreneur of the Year, the Dallas Business Journal's 40 Under 40, the Collin County Business Press 40 Under 40, the Park Cities People's 20 Under 40, the Most Influential Leader in Real Estate by Luxury Home Magazine, Power Player by Dallas Modern Luxury, D Magazine, Top Producer, and Best Realtor. In 2018, Rogers was recognized as one of the top 100 realtors in the country out of over 2 million people, with over 4 billion. That's with a B, with over $4 billion in closed deals and counting. Rogers aims to always be at the top of the list. Rogers is the real estate expert on national TV for Fox, Fox News, Fox Business News, CNBC, and MSNBC. In his free time, Rogers loves spending time with his family, his 3 dogs, Black Lab, Batman, Weimaraner, Coach, and Amigo, his German Shorthair. His church at Highland Park Methodist, CrossFit, and listening to vinyls on his record player. Folks, you'll enjoy this interview. You'll enjoy getting to know Rogers Healy. He's a great guy, and I think that he is going to continue to do great things, and I am so excited to have him now knighted, if you will, as a Texas Titan. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the conversation. Hey folks, I wanted to ask you a favor before we get started today. If you would please go to jasonwrightnow.com and download a copy of my book, Push Play, Taking Your Life Off Pause, for free. Absolutely free, just for registering. And that way I can keep you posted on upcoming blogs, speaking guests, and that sort of thing. And while you're there, please go over to the blog and read my Make Your Own Rules collection of essays. I think you'll enjoy those. I wanted to read you a sampling of one of those. Rule number 11, which is become comfortable with uncomfortable. The rule maker is the Stoics, the Stoic philosophers, and you can learn more about this rule in Letters from a Stoic, which was authored by Seneca, one of the greatest of the Stoic philosophers. So here we go. Tomorrow morning, get up and take a cold shower. I didn't say warm, room temperature, or lukewarm. I said cold. Turn the dial as far to the right and make the shower as cold as possible. Get in. Don't think about it. Just get in. Stoic philosophy is something I began studying about 4 years ago at the urging of virtual mentors Tim Ferriss and Ryan Holiday. I then consulted with Stoic philosopher Seneca and learned exposure to extreme cold, while very uncomfortable, is actually very beneficial. This is the practice of voluntary discomfort. Showers are one of the most comfortable activities of the modern world. How many times have you been in a situation, caught in the rain, fresh off a camping trip, overcoming an illness, and a shower was what gave you the aid and comfort you needed? Hot showers are amazing. However, cold showers are incredibly beneficial. They help burn fat, increase endorphin levels, and put you in a good mood, wake you up, and increase your cognitive ability. I find all these things to be secondary to the fact they help us to control our mind instead of letting our mind control us. Let us remember what Publius Syrus said: a wise man will be master of his mind. A fool will be its slave. When your mind says to stay in bed, reply with a resounding no. When your mind starts to flood you with all sorts of reasons why not to get in a cold shower, don't give it the time to make its case. Just jump in. Deal with the discomfort, then relish the victory. You just kept your mind in its proper place. You controlled it, not the other way around. You have also taken a step towards accepting and living with discomfort. The more discomfort we can endure, the less discomfort can impact our lives. This doesn't mean we should get in the habit of being self-hating sadists. I remember one time I sat with a friend and started to tell him about my study of Stoic philosophy. He immediately started mocking me by making a motion as to simulate whipping his own back. I remember I got so aggravated because self-punishment is not what Stoicism is about at all. It's about training one's mind and body to endure the inevitable discomforts of life, which will certainly come regardless of wealth, health, or position. It's training oneself to take a blow but still achieve a task at a peak level to keep driving forward. It's about taming the mind. Once the mind is tamed, trained, and put in its proper place, our actions and the outcomes thereof will be infinitely better. Whether you are about to make a huge change or just considering it in the future, conditioning oneself to discomfort is of utmost importance. Deciding to make a drastic life change is going to be uncomfortable, so why not get used to it? Seneca would expose himself to discomfort on a regular basis. He may only eat bread and water for a period of time. He might sleep on a concrete floor. Whatever the simulation, it was meant to show him a couple things. One was the worst-case scenario should he lose his wealth and privilege. Seneca was a very wealthy and influential man in his time. He was a direct advisor to the emperor. He also had great wealth. Like any other pruning process, discomfort is one that generally yields benefits. Running a marathon is uncomfortable, but the people who do it make it almost a religion. Going to graduate school is uncomfortable. Telling your spouse you love her when she's infuriated you is uncomfortable. Forgiving an enemy is uncomfortable. However, in each of these instances, on the other side is freedom and conditioning of the mind. You control the discomfort, and you decide how much you can bear. I've learned a few inalienable truths during my time on this planet. One of them is I have yet to find a way to keep my body in shape, my lungs functioning at a peak capacity, and my heart optimally conditioned without being uncomfortable for about 30 minutes to an hour almost every day. It's not comfortable to be in my garage at 6 a.m. with Tony Horton or Sean T barking orders through the screen of my iPad. It's not comfortable for me to sit on my Peloton for 45 minutes riding and sweating with my heart rate nearing 85% of its maximum capacity while Matt Wilpers shines his boyish grin the whole time. However, this is the only way I've found to stay fit. I must be willing to make myself uncomfortable every day to improve. One of my favorite sayings is you cannot get stronger by reading a book about push-ups. You have to do the work. It will be uncomfortable, but in the end, the improvement will come. The single most uncomfortable circumstance I ever found myself in was in China. I had agreed to go on a mission trip with some guys from church. During one of the treks, which started with the scariest and most harrowing rides up the Himalayan foothills one could imagine, we set out on a trek that changed my life forever. 3 hours into the hike, I was covered in leeches and dehydrated. My vision was blurry, and I literally didn't think I could take another step. After a day of climbing up some of the most unforgiving terrain I have ever witnessed with a 50-pound pack on my back, I made my way to a small farm. I immediately threw up the only thing in my stomach in a pig pen, threw off my pack, and fell backwards. I have never been so happy to lie on a dirt floor. The coolness of the floor was the most amazing thing I ever encountered to that point. For the past 2 days, I had been taking what I thought were my last steps on earth. I did not know if I would return to my family back home. I beat myself up, wondering why I had done something so irresponsible. Now I was lying on the back, quote-unquote, porch of the Happy Han Man. The Happy Han Man was the way the missionaries who had gone before us described a sweet man who would be willing to help should we cross his path. Not long after collapsing on his back porch, he spotted a piece of paper in one of my fellow hikers' pockets. It was a picture of the Happy Han Man himself. This very well may have been the first photo of himself he had ever seen. Given his enthusiasm, I think this is a safe assumption. Eventually, we arranged for him to carry my pack to the base of the mountain where I could find hydration and rest. In exchange for this, I gave him a $20 Walmart digital watch that he was so taken with. I definitely got the better end of the trade, but you would have thought I'd given him $1 million. Looking back on this entire event, I realized I was pushed to the brink like never before. The water I drank was lukewarm and dirty. I slept in a small 2-man tent with leeches covering the roof, fearful they'd find their way in. I was hot, I was dizzy, I was exhausted, and I was scared. However, I'm forever grateful for this experience. It taught me to find comfort in the most uncomfortable of circumstances. It changed my sense of survival and heightened my appreciation for the comforts we enjoy daily in a way nothing since has. Go become comfortable with uncomfortable. For more of the rules, please go to jasonwrightnow.com, click on blog, and check it out. Thanks so much. Rogers Healy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Okay, so before we got online, we discussed how it was very hard to do some research on you because you're very low profile, you stay off the radar, very discreet, as it were.
Mysterious.
Very mysterious.
Yeah, U2 needs to write a sequel to He Moves in Mysterious Ways, and that would be my theme song.
I like that. And before we get into that, one thing I do know about you is I understand that you just received some good news. Let's go ahead and talk about that real quick, please.
Yeah, I'm not the dad. I'm just kidding. No, I just found out that I was named one of the top 100 realtors in the country, and yeah.
Also good news.
Yeah, even better news. Yeah, so I'm still a bachelor with 3 dogs.
Well, congratulations. And look, I tell you what, if anybody had any questions as to why this discreet, never seen, completely off social media guy whose billboards you will never see on Katy Trail or along 635 or anywhere
or even
else.
in East Texas now.
In East Texas,
Incognito.
Good Lord, can't escape you. But no, top 100 realtor in America.
Yeah.
Out of over 2 million.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
And
Thank
you know, and it's no small thing for you to be taking this time, because I know how valuable your time is. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for coming here. Yeah,
absolutely.
And if y'all could see this room, it's a very loud room. There's a lot of color in here, but the most colorful articles are on our bodies with a beautiful. Is that linen?
Actually, this is a linen. It's linen with a touch of something. I just went to and I said I want the Rogers Healy blue blazer.
Yeah, then Rogers Healy discount.
This is what they
exist.
This is what they came back with.
It looks beautiful.
But for those of you who obviously you can't see Rogers, he has a nice pinkish hue of
red.
a jacket.
This is a red jacket.
It's a very very soft red. How's that? It's a soft red.
It's a soft red, yes.
Which I think
some would say salmon.
Oh, nice.
But yes, thank you.
Nice.
Winterberry, if you will.
I like it. it. So, all right. So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
You've been used to crushing everything you'd ever done your whole life. You just whatever you did, you were good at. Basket weaving, good at it.
Man.
Pick up sticks, all the other kids were angry with you. You know, stay away from Rogers when it comes time to play poker in your kindergarten class because you're going to take all their money.
That is. I'm going to stop you because there were 3 things that I was good at until I was about 22 years old. The first was eating.
Okay.
The second was collecting baseball cards, and the third was video games.
Okay.
Which would be a theme for sucking at literally everything else.
What was the best baseball card you ever owned?
I mean, well, listen, every kid had a 1989 King Griffey Jr. rookie card, number 1 upper deck, and I had a bunch of those. But I'm a stat guy, and I love, if there's something I like, I think I used the word passion before it was cliche, and I was passionate about knowing things other people didn't know.
Okay.
And I was also passionate about business at an early age, and baseball cards were my entryway into the world of trading, selling, and I lost a bunch of money and I learned a bunch. But that was my obsession.
Yep.
But no, I went to private school growing up until I moved to Dallas, and I'd always make the sports teams, and I moved here, and they're like, "You're cut." I was like, "From what?" They're like, you're 40 pounds overweight and you can't dribble left-handed. And I was like, what? So I learned the hard way, humility. But no, real estate was literally the first thing I ever did that within due time I was great at it. But it took me failing God knows how many times. I mean, even my real estate exam, which I told you earlier, I failed it 21 times in a row, which is a Texas state record.
Oh.
Truly. I think the dumbest human I've ever met in my life used to work for me, and that human took the test 7 times. And I was like, just please keep failing it so you can beat me.
Right.
But yeah, no, real estate, it was a God thing, and it found me. And over time, I kind of found a way to make a difference within the real estate community and eventually make a difference in the community in general. But yeah, no one ever said that Rogers Healy was a born success.
Right.
He was funny, and he was just kind of there, but nothing about me ever screamed great until I found my niche in this business.
So that was 18 years ago, but then somewhere along the way, you take that proverbial leap that some do well, some don't, my suspicion, having been in real estate for the bulk of my career as well, you start really getting busy, your business is growing, you need help, so now you have to start hiring people, which can be the best day and the worst day of your life all at once.
Yeah.
When does it happen to where you decide, I'm going to scale the business?
So I'll start by saying there's a difference between being a good leader and a good manager, and I always thought I was a great leader. And to this day, I would never consider myself a great manager. I started my company when I was young. I was 25 when I started the Rogers Healy & Associates company. And at that point, I was a great salesperson, and I thought I was a great leader. But I didn't understand scaling. I didn't understand scaling until probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm 39 now. So I was 36, and I was just in a dark place, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I wasn't really happy with my life. And I kept seeing these themes pop up with people quitting, people stealing, and I was like, all right, that's fine. I'll have enough energy and screw them. I'll find a way to beat them. But you get older, and I think that God gifts you with wisdom and discernment. And my wisdom came through really bad decisions versus some people that are just born smart. So I hit rock bottom. I was part of a Ponzi scheme, lost all my money. I was out of a really bad relationship and just was at a point where I was just like, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I met this guy named Jerry McNabb who changed my life, and he changed the way I think, the way I speak, but more than anything, the way I approach my business. I learned how to scale. So yeah, my success story was not, I've been with Roger since day one. It's like, man, I know that guy, he used to work for me, and then finally I started to figure it out and I started to scale.
So, and I would imagine you go through that proverbial, it's not working so much in your business, but on your business. Yeah. So whenever you, and I presume that Jerry was his name? Jerry becomes a mentor.
Oh, yeah.
So what advice did he give you at that time to be able to, because I know, I was 28. I was a little older than you, but same thing. Thought I knew a lot more than I did, made a bunch of mistakes. And it wasn't until I realized if you're going to grow this thing, you have to kind of step away from it. What advice did he give, and what did that look like for you?
So this guy he's the exact personality that I need, because I like things that are direct and I don't like fluff, but he knew coming into it. The first thing he told me is I was not emotionally intelligent, and that was really hard to hear. And I don't think the advice really started until probably 6 months ago. And this is almost a 3-year relationship now, but he told me that I wasn't emotionally intelligent. He told me in his way that my reality wasn't real. And he essentially prepared me for, he's like, if you think you're in the thick of the storm right now, or the eye of the storm, you ain't seen nothing, because it's about to really hit you in the face. And so that was hard for me. And instead of just running and saying, screw it, I'm moving to East Texas and I'm gonna just kind of be a fly on the wall, I was like, all right, let's face it head on. And I've learned a lot throughout my relationship with him. Like, I used to use words like change, and I used to talk about me, but now it's evolving and us, and things that, like a true leader, you're all given the gift to lead, but most people choose to lead with their ego versus their heart. And yeah, it was a really harsh reality. And people would quit back in the day, and I would just pretty much, like the guy in Shark Tank, say, you're dead to me. But then it was like, well, why are you leaving? And the common theme, other than the fact that they weren't fit for it or whatever, was it was all about me.
Right.
And that was never my intention. But obviously the name of the company is Rogers, Healy and Associates, Healy Relocation, Healy Property Management. Like, crap, I can't go and rebrand, but I can go and rebrand the way that I lead.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was tough. But the start of it was pretty much like, here is everything you're terrible at. You might be less terrible, but you're never going to be great. The things that you're great at aren't going to help you sustain your business. You're going to continue to start over, which I was tired of doing.
Right. Well, it seems like one of the things that you did that, and I want to use this as a segue to get into the social media presence and some of that you're doing very successfully.
Thank you.
So I'm talking to Josh Tomlin a couple of weeks ago, pitcher for the Braves, and we were discussing he was like so many other high school ball players, then college ball players, a field guy, pitch sometimes, because anybody that could get the ball over the plate with some velocity, you're going to pitch, right, when you're in Little League and Pony League. And
you're looking at me like I was a pitcher. I was first base because I covered the most amount of space.
Well, and we're going to talk about that too, because I know you're a fellow Pelotoner.
Oh yeah.
So we're going
to
we're going to talk about that, because I don't do a podcast without mentioning Peloton, in hopes that I will one day have Matt Wilpers on here, and they will be a sponsor.
Yeah, or even like, you want to have the blue check next to your name, to where Jason and Rogers both influencers, and
I mean, which I'm just getting started, but you know where I'm going to be this Saturday?
Where?
In New York, in studio, taking the Power Zone class with Matt.
Is it a special class for you? Is it a monumental class?
I think that because he knows I'm coming, and I've DM'd him so many times, there will probably be extra security.
Has he responded?
No, actually, yes.
Did he really?
He's very engaging.
Cool.
He's very engaging. He has been he has been a great, because he literally looks at, I don't know who your favorite instructor is, but he literally takes all of his, I guess, folks like me that are active on the Facebook groups and that sort of thing, like the Power Zone classes. They're like his athletes, that he considers himself a trainer. And so, yes, he's been very engaging. It's been really cool. And, my daughter and my wife both tease me, as they absolutely should, that I, get kind of excited whenever I hear from Matt Wilpers. But I'm like, hey, I'm making a dent. I'm connecting.
Heck yeah, man. That's the beauty of social media.
So my youngest daughter and I will be sitting for 90 minutes in studio taking a Power Zone
You do
class.
90-minute classes?
Yeah.
I would die.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't.
No, I can't. Well, I'm just saying that because I had my cell phone with me the whole class.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Well, you're a lot busier than I am.
No, that's not true. I need to practice patience.
Well, all right. So let's go back to, you've learned a lot. You're talking about how to scale the business, and then the social media aspect. And I want to back up another little bit too, because I told you before we got online that I wanted to do this interview because I see so many similarities that come through both from mutual friends of ours, as well as watching your social media, some of the things you say, some of the things that you execute on. Like, my suspicion is you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Gary V started very much like you, very early adopter of social media for commercial use with his, with his dad's wine store. Now he's on Madison Avenue, and he's one of the go-to guys in the music industry and sports for having that major digital presence. So your story is very similar to his, it sounds like. So take me back, because you mentioned MySpace, man. So you were really an early adopter for using this to promote your brand.
Yeah.
How did you do that and bring us forward?
Yeah, so I think something I just thought of in my head is I'm a personality marketer, and I think that in sales, at the end of the day, like you and I both have our real estate license, and this is probably not the best example, but people are going to work with who they want to work with, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're in real estate sales or they sell custom clothes or tables or coasters or whatever, widgets. And I found that out pretty quickly. I was like, okay, how can I go and differentiate myself? This is 2001 against 10,000 other people. Mm-hmm. I'm the least experienced. I have hair down to my nipples. I thought I was Ashton Kutcher, but I wasn't afraid to go and respectfully push the envelope with branding.
Right.
And I saw that pretty quick, and it came with a lot of flack, which really hurt me at the beginning. It really, really hurt my feelings, and I took everything personal. Now I'm just like, hey, they're talking. But yeah, I saw that. Gary V is a personality. He's a little bit more abrasive than me. I wish he wouldn't curse.
Right.
And I think that would be really cool to get in front of children if he wasn't so in your face. But his whole thing from the 30,000 foot view, I almost said square foot view, a 30,000 foot view is that you have to be authentic. Yep. And I think that's what I do, and I attract people that no matter where I go, my objective is for them to all know who I am, and as importantly, know what I do. Right. And I think if you can leave somebody with a memory, who cares if you do real estate or you do whatever else, like they're gonna want more. And I learned that really quickly with social media. Mm-hmm. And I'm not mysterious. There's no one ever, like, right. You know when I sneezed last, just because there's literally no hiding what I do. But also social media is an online resume.
Right.
And you can't hide the fact that I have people working for me, or I have this, or I'm doing this. And over time, people want to work with the best.
Right.
And yeah, it was just an opportunity, which it still is, to build myself quicker to scale.
Right.
And MySpace and Facebook, I was like, holy crap, I got a tiger by its tail. And I knew that other realtors weren't going to use it because it wasn't cool.
Right.
And then personally, my brand and the company is light years ahead of any other company because they were late adapters.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great. It's been a game changer. But now the problem is that the generation of influencers and millennials and, I hate to say this, but just lazy salespeople, they think they can post a picture of them in a Gucci suit on a rooftop and they're going to get business from it.
Right.
They're going to attract other losers.
Right.
And we have a few people up here that are the exception to the rule, and they actually do really well. But that's hard for me.
Right.
But even when I see this kind of stuff, I'm like, I would never post a selfie in a Lamborghini because I can't fit in one, and I drive a used truck. But it's the law of attraction, and I think people are attracted to someone who's not afraid to go and do something in an unabashed way, knowing that eventually it's going to work.
Well, and to finish, because I chased a rabbit whenever I started thinking about you playing first base and being a very large first baseman. But Josh Tomlin, who I was interviewing, it was whenever he stopped. He was told, I think it was whenever he was at Texas Tech. He was either Texas Tech or when he first got drafted and got to the pros, where they said, "You're just going to pitch," and he was kind of shocked at first. But what he realized was, he was a good collegiate baseball player. He was a good high school baseball player. But if he was ever going to make it to the major leagues, he had to focus on what he was really good at, and that was pitching. Yeah. That was his gift. That was what he leveraged, and he knew if I want to make money playing baseball, then that's what I'm going to do. And it sounds to me like you figured out at some point the asset you had that you could leverage was your personality,
Yeah.
and you started to deploy that, and then the business came.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this is might come as a shock to most people, but like, I don't even like real estate's not my thing.
Yeah.
Like, period. I never have gotten excited and walked into a house and been like, here's where you're gonna cook.
Yeah.
Or like an office space, here's where you're gonna work. It's like, no, I like the relationship part.
Right.
And I feel like I can market as well as anybody or better, and it just happens to be what I'm marketing is real estate.
Right. And that's one of the things I used to always tell my realtors is that, form the relationship and then communicate.
Yeah.
That's the key. So, all right, so you start seeing some success, and then you decide, tell me about that first hire. Why did you hire them? Was it an assistant to help you with your business? Or
No.
did you decide, I'm going to take this thing to a bigger level? What does that look like?
So I'm not a planner and I'm not a strategic person. I'm learning to be, and I'm learning to be way more thorough with my thoughts. But it was ego, and my first phone call was my college roommate, he was 24 and I was 25, or maybe I was 24 and he was 23. Either way, he was selling tractors, and then he went to sell financial services, and then he called me to sell me insurance, and I was like, all right, sucker, how about getting your real estate license? And he's like, sure. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, crazy. But yeah, it was that. And then I've always been a good talent scout just in general, and probably like you can see somebody's potential. And so I would call people. I would literally call them. I would never call a realtor to recruit them.
Right.
For multiple reasons, one of which is I still don't really like realtors. I don't mix well with them, but I knew at the end of the day all I could offer was a lot of fun and emotional equity and something that I knew I was going to make special. So I had 3 or 4 college kids working for me. I had a few single moms. I had my college roommate, and it just kind of built from there.
Yeah.
But we're at a point now where we're literally recruiting realtors, which is great.
Yeah, because how big is the company? How many realtors do you have?
There's a few hundred.
Yeah, yeah. And for those of you who don't, you don't swim in this soup. That is a sizable brokerage, and especially for an independent. And that's one of the things that I'd like to visit with you about too, because the business has evolved so much, and a firm with your size, which is large and independent, you're not a part of a major brand, and then all the Redfins, the Compasses, and all of them coming on board. I think I know the answer because I've lived it, but tell me how you're staying ahead of the game and staying relevant in the real estate space whenever you got all this chatter about the business is going to change so much. Tell me what your strategy is right now.
Yeah, so to answer the first thing about the business changing, one of my first jobs was at Blockbuster Video.
Yep.
And if I'm talking to people, and I would say, who killed Blockbuster? Netflix. And then who had a mom or dad in here that was a travel agent? Who killed that? Travelocity. There's a reason that the realtor job is not in jeopardy.
Yep.
It's because what we sell is comfort, and we sell something that's not tangible, and it's a business of popularity, but it's also a business of knowledge. So that doesn't scare me, but what we've done is every time a new company, like you mentioned Compass, that was one of the best things that could have happened to my company. A couple agents went to work there that haven't done anything more than they did here, but it's a bright, shiny toy. And the more corporate an intimate business becomes, the more attractive an intimate boutique company is to the user.
Yep.
So, I lead by example. I still practice real estate, but it's been great. And the company I worked for before I started this is now a Sotheby's affiliate. Mm-hmm. They lost their attraction for the person that just liked the, not mom and pop shop feel, but like boutique. And boutique, everyone thinks boutique has to be small. Boutique means it's a small ownership.
Right.
So yeah, it's given me the ability. Another word that this Jerry guy has introduced me to is being agile. Mm-hmm. And you can't be agile if you're answering to 50 other people. You can't be agile if you have three barriers you have to go through to get a response. Like, if I want to change everything in the company, I can change it, which makes it difficult because it's me doing it. But yeah, I like it, and I like the fact if you're driving around, like over here on the corner of Knox and 75 by my office, there's literally a mattress firm across from a mattress giant, mm-hmm. and I would love that. And like, great, that's how do I go, and other than just slashing prices, how do I go and beat them?
Right.
And that's the way I operate. I'm a competitive person, which I never was before real estate. And hold on a second. And yeah, the business itself is crazy. There's 60,000 realtors just in DFW now. And there's 2.5 million in the country. When I started, it was probably a quarter of that.
Right.
But it just always keeps you moving. And for me, I know my mission on earth is not to be a real estate broker, it's to be a broker for heaven and to introduce people to Jesus and, just to do that. And real estate is a great avenue and vehicle for it, especially with the people in real estate that are not necessarily the most lovely people.
Right. Well, okay, now, you said something there about how you approach the business. One of the hardest things, I got to believe, and again, I saw a lot of similarities. That's why I was excited about this interview. When you're someone with your personality, not only does it bring you customers, but it does bring you agents, but then also it brings agents who demand a lot of your time, your energy. I've always told people that being a real estate broker, you almost need to have a degree in psychology as well, because you're a cheerleader, you're psychiatrist, you're counselor, you have all these things wrapped into one. And now with you because I gotta believe, there are people probably showing up wanting to work for Rogers Healy because they see you on social media, they see the personality. Yeah. How are you balancing your personal clients, running the business, and being available for those agents?
So as I enter my 40th year, I've learned a lot of things, and I think the most important thing I've learned recently with business is intentionality.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a very sensitive person, heart on my sleeve, which I never want to change, but I used to take everything personal up here, which means like if someone needed my help and I was doing something that was a better use of my time, I would literally drop everything just to talk to them. And I don't have children yet. Like, I haven't been blessed with a wife and children, but I know that eventually I will. And I think part of being a parent from an ignorant perspective is letting the child figure out some of the stuff on their own. Right. And I think one of the reasons I was able to do pretty well pretty quickly is that I truly didn't have someone saying like, hey, if you need me, come over here. And that was like a baptism by fire. That's just my way of learning. So it is difficult for me to know that for a long time, and even now, people want to work here because of me. So my obsession with the business has been, I want them to work here for the company. And then if they see me, it's a high five and it's a cherry on top. Yep. Which is hard. And I think especially if you have an ego, which I do, I have a very big ego. It's hard for me to go and separate myself from the fun. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a fun place to work and people really enjoy it. But in order for them to succeed as to their potential, maximize their potential in business success, they have to rely on themselves. Yeah. It's fun, it's crazy, but where we're headed is not corporate, but it's more of me being a CEO. Right. Versus a best friend. Right. Which was that was probably the hardest thing I've done as a business owner, was remove myself from the buddy factor and just truly be their leader. Well, and define that for us, because and also just with the podcast, I mean, very much Tim Ferriss is my muse for this thing, except it's a Texas focused. I want guys like you that are here in the Lone Star State executing and operating that are peak performers. So your leadership style, what is it now? I mean, like day to day, I want you to walk me through a little bit about how you run your meetings, how often do these folks see you, and how you budget your time. Kind of walk me through that as a leader. So I've always have been a fan of leading by example, and my dad's my hero. And every day as a child, I just saw he's a grinder, and to me, grinding at the beginning meant working 15 hours a day, which it still does. But I think that leading by example means also not going out of my way to be like, hey, I woke up earlier than you today, or hey, I sold more real estate than you last week, and I also am running 3 companies, and it's like, no. I think for me, being humble and being kind, like the song, is crucial, because like most successful people, the numbers can speak for themselves. And I don't have to go tell people that are interviewing here, like, hey, here's what I've done. They're probably in here because they've seen it. But when they're around me, and they know that I treat them like everyone else, it has a butterfly effect. And that has led to a perpetuation of people just wanting to work here and something special growing. But yeah, I wake up early, I go to bed kind of early, and I go really hard in the paint. Yeah. The minute I wake up until the minute I hit the bed, I'm non-stop. Yeah. Which a lot of people don't like. And that's fine. That's part of me being agile and learning. That I'm kind of an acquired taste, but the ones that really get it and they catch fire, I see overnight their lives change. Yeah. My approach is not for everybody, but I've also learned that we have executive staff up here and people that work for me that aren't like me. They have a shared vision of dominating, but they're maybe more nurturing than me, or
Right.
they're not as direct as me. And different people gravitate towards different personality. But at the end of the day, I know it's my energy and my vision organically leading everybody.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's hard, but I love being around people. Like if I was around you all day, more stuff would get done. But I still have the hero factor where if I see somebody up here that has their head down, I want to go love on them. Of course. And that's what just makes this place special outside of the business side of things.
Right. Okay, so you've mentioned a couple times about you're a smaller Rogers Healy than you once were.
Uh-huh.
So I'm big on whatever longevity, health, fitness. We talked about Peloton. What are you doing to stay fit? And when did you all of a sudden decide I want to get a haircut, slim down?
Yeah.
Start getting spray tans and use more hair product.
If I could get sponsored by a spray tan company. Actually, I am sponsored. Hush Hush Tan on Oak Lawn. If you're listening, thank you all.
You heard it, folks.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go this afternoon and get my spray. Honestly, man, it was at the beginning. It was the fact that all the girls considered me their best friend. I was like, I want to kiss you instead of like protect you.
Right.
So yeah, that was probably part of the motive. And then I also think that people are attracted to people that take care of themselves. And I think that if I can go and, again, show that like I take care of my body and my spirit and my mind, and I still have time for the other stuff, then you can't stop me. But it was in college. I just started, I didn't drink in high school, and I started drinking beer. I was like, why am I getting fatter? But I started waking up.
Beer belly is a real thing.
Beer is fun, but so are milkshakes, and I would do both. But my fraternity house was across the street from the SMU track. I was a Sigma Chi in college, and the track was literally across the street. And I just did some research, and I found out that if you run on an empty stomach, you're more likely to burn fat. And so I was like, well, I don't want people to know that I'm actually doing this. So I started waking up at 5:30 in the morning in college, and I would go run a mile, 2 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles, and I was like, holy moly, I'm losing weight. I should grow my hair out too. But yeah, it turned into a very healthy obsession, and exercise to me is the only thing I can do during the day where I'm completely escaping working. Even though if I'm on the bike, I'm checking my phone and stuff. But yeah, I love it, and I was not a great athlete growing up, but now I wish I could go back.
Yeah.
But now all the guys that were bullies to me in high school, if y'all are listening, you're bald and you're not fast, and I can beat you up.
Just take them out to Katie Trail and go, look, have you seen my billboard?
Yeah, just look, that's my face.
That's me.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
you're
me.
going to Katie Trail I's house? Well, while you're there, look up whenever you're
Yeah, and
walking.
enjoy your fried jalapenos.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have a chicken breast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just kidding.
So, all right, so what do you do? Well, besides ride the Peloton, what's your routine? What does it look like? And is it 6 days a week, 5 days a week? Do you do intermittent fasting?
I've done everything.
Yep.
I found that I did intermittent fasting at the beginning of the year, and it was great. But
yeah, I enjoyed it.
yeah, I became kind of grumpy. I did CrossFit for almost a decade, and then it kind of got to me, and I had to retire, which was hard. But now I wake up early, and I normally run to the gym, and I have a trainer whose wife works here now, which has been great. And I lift 5 days a week, and I do Peloton 6 days a week, and it's great. I drink a ton of water, and I exercise my heart too. So I read the Bible every day, and have a cool relationship with God, and that sets the tone outside of exercise. But yeah, I know that if I work out in the morning, all I have to do is work.
Yeah. So do you do any sort of, I guess the hip thing to say is mindfulness or meditation, or is as we, to speak a little Christianese for the fans out there, of the our quiet time, is that whenever that happens for you, or what does that look like?
Yeah, every day. So and there's a girl that I've been hanging out with that's really pushed me, and I hope by the time this airs, she's still around. But she has encouraged me to go and just have a different kind of conversation with God. And every morning, I have Bible apps on my phone, and I have like Jesus Calling, which I can read while I'm brushing my teeth. But that to me is not real quiet time. I think quiet time is having a conversation with God. Mm-hmm. And everyone has different ways of saying it, meditation, etc. But I think for me, if I dig into the Word and I read the Bible, whether it's something as blatant as a proverb versus like the book of Isaiah, I'm like, man, this is really cool, and I can pull something away from it, which might lead me to being more patient up here.
Right.
But it's perspective, and I think if you've got perspective, then the stuff that comes at you during the day with work is nothing.
Right.
Who cares? It's work.
Right.
So yeah, I do that, and I have to force myself. I have alerts where I get like scripture sent to me during the day, and it's ironically at times where I'm like either like tired or grumpy. I'm like, all right, let's push through. But yeah, I think that's I don't think it's the most important part of my life. And
right.
I can always be better at it.
Well, let's talk about music.
Yeah.
I know that's a big part of your
Let's
life. Talk to me about who you like to listen to. I know you've got a cool. Again, it's kind of weird because you are a very prolific social media guy, so I know a lot more about you than you know about me. So it's kind of, but I know you listen to a lot of music. Tell me who you like and why, and what that means to you. Because
so music is. There's a quote I heard that some people hear music, some people feel it. And I feel music. And I think that throughout my life, I have a very selective memory. And again, I'm passionate about a few things. But I feel like I've had a soundtrack at different stages of my life where if I hear a certain song, it just strikes a different chord in my heart. But I like all music. But one of my favorite questions to ask somebody when they're interviewing is if you could see anybody in concert ever, who would it be? But one of my favorite questions, like when I'm with my buddies, is like we'll do a draft of like if you could go and have a super group of 10 people, who would it be? And mine's always a mix of classic rock, country, and R&B. So I like everything, but rarely will you find me without music in the background other than something like this. So Don Henley is my favorite ever.
Okay, and he's Texan, by the way.
From Linden, Texas. Yeah. So Don Henley, and then Van Morrison is a close number 2, and a guy named David Ruffin is number 3, who was the lead singer of the Temptations. So I like everything, and I have a room at my house about the size of this that is decked out with autographs I've collected since I was a kid, and just memorabilia of stuff from. I went to Billy Joel's 70th birthday concert. I know somebody in the band and got his set list, and I see stuff like that. And again, it's an escape, and music is a way to go. And in my mind, especially if you listen to a vinyl, I'm like, I can't imagine what it was like when this song came out, and what this did to society or to somebody's heart. So yeah, music more than anything is my if I could find a way to do something with music for a living, I would do it.
Did you ever happen to see that show Vinyl that
no, on HBO?
Yeah, I mean,
I wish I would have, but no.
And of course it didn't make it, but it was really cool because I knew nothing about the music industry, like A&R. I didn't know what that was back in the day, but in the same way I loved Motown and just all the old stuff as well as a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
But music's always been very important to me, and it's Martin Scorsese, so it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And Mick Jagger, I guess it was his co-producer on the thing.
That.
And so it was a really cool deal, and good show, but didn't make it. One of the few failures, I guess, that Scorsese or Mick Jagger's ever had. But all right, talk to me about the dogs.
Yeah, man, those are my boys, those are my kids.
Yeah.
Again, like I'm 39 and no children, no wife, but hopefully that'll.
Oh, after this podcast, because baby, we're touching lives.
Golly.
I mean, so.
Hey, if she's listening, I'm not going to say her name because if Brooke.
Yeah.
If you're listening. My amigo, Batman, and Coach, they're my sons, and I've always had dogs since I was in college, but it's different when you're in your late 30s. What an animal can do to fill your heart, because it's stuff that you thought you'd have with humans, but those are my kids.
Right. So as a leader, and right now I got to believe, because your profile is continuing to rise, man, right? I mean, you're kind of hitting your stride. I mean, when you get to that 40s, that's where you start to kind of.
I hope. You
figured some things out. So how are you surrounding yourself, like the whole like iron sharpening iron?
Yeah.
And the reason I ask this, Rogers, is because there's so many. I do a lot of guest lecturing to undergrads, and I mentor undergrads quite a bit that want to be entrepreneurs, that are trying to figure out how to start and run businesses, and then talk about the things, because it seems like you've got a real good handle on how to develop yourself outside the business so that you'll be more successful inside the business. What does that look like for you?
So maybe a good parallel with music is, maybe not music, in high school, like in prom, it always blew my mind when like the nerdy dude took the really pretty cheerleader. And the common theme between all those is that they just asked. And a lot of people live life like thinking, well, you already have a house, or you already have a car, like whatever. And I've just learned that if you ask and you go for it, you're gonna at least get their respect. And for me, the people that I surround myself with outside of my office are people that I look up to, whether they're successful or they're a failure. I like people that are vulnerable. And some of my best friends, like I'm attracted to power, like, and I mean that in a very respectful way, but people that have done something that they're literally the best at what they do, that's powerful. And I've got friends that are Academy Award winners, that are music producers, but I also have friends that they work for the government, or they're school teachers, but what they do, they've mastered. And when I'm around that, it's the iron sharpening iron thing, and sometimes it discourages me because I'm like, well, the rest of my day, it's like, you know? But yeah, I mean, I have a very action-packed, fun life, but everyone's capable of doing it. The difference is that I truly had no fear of just introducing myself to someone like a Rick, where like it's just like you're human,
right,
and you need fulfillment, and I know that I can bring something to the table, and so can you, and that's what puts into perspective for me as well with work,
right,
is that I can go do something as extreme as a television show, but then I'm coming back here to my desk,
right,
and people aren't, they're still, you know, they're comfortable with me,
right,
where most people go and do something and they think because they did that they're better than somebody, and it's so stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think my mission is letting people know that it's okay to be accessible, relatable, and be humble, because it's just stuff.
Right, right. So what are your goals for Rogers, Healy and Associates at this point? And all three companies.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you want to see this thing go?
I don't know. I never put a business plan together, and I'm glad I didn't. It's not for sale. I've had people approach me, and I very respectfully say no, and then after the fourth or fifth time, I'm like, I'm seriously not selling. It's a legacy for me, and I think that when I'm blessed with children and a wife, it's something I can eventually hand down if they want it. But if not, you know, it was fun. It was fun while I was here. So it's a mission for me, and I really love the fact that we have the ability through the companies to go and help change somebody's life. I used to be safe, and I used to go and find people that were just lazy and be like, let's work, and then it would just make me miserable. But now I know the impact this place has on somebody's heart, and that to me comes with just a lot of responsibility and fuel, and it excites me.
Right. Well, tell me right now, if because obviously coming from the real estate world, we have a lot of real estate brokers as well as realtor, listeners. So that, our business is one in which something like 25% of people are going to quit within the first 6 months or something. I don't remember what
80% quit in the first 4 months.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's a huge fallout.
Yeah.
So for that man or woman that's just decided, I'm going to get my real estate license, what is your immediate advice to them?
Don't quit, period.
Yeah.
It sounds so cliche, and if you guys have listened to this, you'll notice that I've mentioned multiple times that I quit everything, and I would always blame everything else. And then I had to come to Jesus with myself, and like, all right, the common denominator between 25 jobs was me. And this is a job that people go and do because they see someone on TV, not me, they see somebody on TV that they're like, I can do that, or they see their best friends. Like, no, the common denominator between people that are successful in real estate is that they didn't quit.
Right.
So yeah, and I think that's anything. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And whatever it is you're doing, whether it's sales or corporate America, or you're in accounting, you have the opportunity to be the best if you stick with it and you can master it. And then you have the luxury of saying, well, I don't like this, I'm going to try something else. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's tough. And everyone knows a real estate person. I think in DFW alone, 1 in 5 people have their license. How do you stand out? Like, be kind,
right,
and be intentional, and meet everybody. And when you meet them, leave them with a nugget where they were like, what's that guy? Oh yeah, that Rogers guy, he's a realtor.
Right.
Versus whatever, somebody down the street that you don't even like.
So also, whether it's them in real estate or beyond, we've talked about your personal relationships, mentors, kind of who you surround yourself with. What leaders do you look to emulate, either through reading what they write, just kind of, because I know we got some great business leaders around here. That's who I'm going after to bring on this podcast.
Yeah.
Who do you look to and go, that guy, that gal, they're doing it right, I want to find out what they're doing?
So there was a guy that worked with us for a couple of months doing like some marketing consulting, and I had him put together this pitch, and he knew I was obsessed with music. And he said that what he liked about me is that I was like Don Henley and the Eagles, and I've never listened to somebody as much as like this guy for 5 minutes told me this, and I was so locked in. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, Don Henley, a fun fact about him, you know what group he was in?
Yeah.
Which one?
Eagles.
Okay, and you know what instrument he played?
Drums.
Right? And
yep.
so, but he was the rhythm and the heartbeat
yep.
of the band, and still is. But the irony is that Don Henley wasn't up front with a microphone like Mick Jagger or Axl Rose. He led from behind, and he let the people in front of him go, whether it's Timothy B. Schmidt or Joe Walsh or Glenn Fry, and take a lot of the spotlight because he knew his gifts. And I see that to where I have a room in my house I call it the frontman room, because I'm obsessed with the theory of a frontman in a group. So for me, my idols are truly people that are idols of any teenager. It's musicians, and it's football coaches, and it's I lived with a guy for a long time that was a football player, and I learned a lot from him. And what he's done has been great. To where I don't really have my dad is my hero, and he's a businessman, but I don't obsess. Like, I wouldn't freak out if I went and had lunch with Gary Vee.
Right.
Like, cool. But I would freak out if Don Henley called me and be like, hey, I love what you're doing for the city. Can you get lunch? I'd be like, yeah, after I change my diaper. Right. So, yeah, for me, it's different. And I feel like the irony is you work so hard. Like, I had a guy call me today to get lunch that 10 years ago, I called him once a week for 2 years because I wanted to meet him. And then he called me, he's like, I'd love to go to lunch with you today to catch up. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It's so weird. You work really hard to get somewhere and to get access. And then when you're there, it's weird. You don't work, you work differently. And for me, I think what I'm working on is keeping my heart so humbled that it doesn't matter.
Right.
So the short answer is there's not somebody that I would like to emulate. I want to make my parents proud, and I want to live like my dad has lived and continue to, but I like people that just operate differently within the realms of their profession.
Yeah.
And like favorite singers are Don Henley, Phil Collins, both drummers. Levon Helm, who was the drummer for the band. Martin Scorsese did the documentary on them called The Last Waltz. That to me is really interesting. And ironically, those are the people that have the longest careers as well, because it's not all about them.
Right.
So, yeah, but I mean, there are people that I respect the crap out of.
Yeah.
But they're suit and tie corporate people that work 5 days a week.
Right.
I have on a salmon blazer and jeans and
a soft red,
and I work 24/7.
Right.
Because what I do is my hobby, and what they do is their job.
Yeah. So, and this is going to be fun to ask you. The last question I ask every guest is, and you've probably read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's really kind of cool that I've gone around and almost inevitably, even if people haven't read that book, they understand this question and get it, and that lets me know that I must be onto something with who I'm asking to be on the Texas Titan podcast. So there's a chapter in which Covey says you're walking down the street and you hear music and it's coming from a church. You walk in the church and it's a funeral. You walk up to the coffin and you realize you are attending your own funeral. When it's all said and done, Rogers, I mean, what do you want said about you?
Yeah, well, on my funeral at Texas Stadium.
Oh, I don't think there's anywhere else that
I'm just kidding.
could hold
all
the soft red wearing jacket wearers of the world.
It's a uniform. What do I want said about me? I've actually never been asked this. Honestly, I want the intangibles. I want, first of all, I want to know that he's a man of God and that lived it after being humbled. But if they could say two things after that, I want them to say he's the greatest husband, the greatest father that ever lived.
Yeah. And
I would love for the real estate and business stuff to not even be mentioned. Truly. Which right now, unfortunately, I'm known as a real estate guy, which is kind of exhausting. But yeah, I would like to be known as a man that brought people to the Lord and that led his family well and loved his wife better than anyone ever has. And all 10 of my children knew that I was the best dad ever.
Well, and I think that one of them should be named Rogers with the middle name Smith, just to torture him for a little.
Yeah, just to confuse them.
Rogers Smith.
Yeah.
Healy.
Or just Roger Healy.
I like it.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, that's another reason why I chose you for the Texas Titans podcast, because you're not just Roger, you're Rogers. It's so big, you're plural.
There's two of me, which was really fun when I was a fat kid. And it makes sense because you're so fat. Mom, it happened again. We're transferring schools. Yeah.
Well, Rogers, I really appreciate you taking this time. It was every bit as much fun and insightful as I thought it would be. Thanks for taking the time, brother.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks so much for joining me on this episode of the Texas Titans podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at JasonWrightTX1. That's Jason Wright TX, the number 1, or on Facebook at Jason Wright Now. For show notes and upcoming interviews, please visit TexTitans.blog. I also encourage you to visit my personal website at jasonwrightnow.com, where you can download a free copy of my book, Push Play, Taking Your Life Off Pause, for free just by subscribing. Please, please, please remember to subscribe to the podcast and share it with others. I'm truly grateful for you being a part of this journey with me. Get out there and do something titanic. Until next time, thank you so much for listening.